Hey everybody, did you know that auto manufacturers sometimes put in stop leak at the factories when they build new cars? I worked in the industry for a long time and never had encountered that, never knew that. And the answer is they do. Manufacturers at times put in stop leak right in the factory in order to reduce the possibility of leaks. And they could be simple things like, a hose didn't seal quite tightly or something. And for many years as I worked in the industry, I didn't know that that was a practice. I was surprised. During my time working in the hybrid and electric world, I had electronic modules that on occasion needed to be cooled by engine coolant. Now that in itself sounds a little bit odd because engine coolant's pretty hot. But sometimes the larger power electronics devices dissipate heat, and we actually did use engine coolant, hot engine coolant, to cool some of the devices. Well, what I encountered when I did that was I was responsible for ensuring the development and validation of that part so it could be used in production. And as part of the list of specifications that I had to pass for the vehicle, from the vehicle people, was I had to run a test for something called ginger root. And we had to put ginger root in the coolant that we used while we were testing this part. And I stopped and said, "Ginger root, what are you talking about?" And I went and talked to some of the experts, and they said, "Oh yes, we do this all the time." And I talked to an engineer, actually executive, that worked in the engine world for many years and worked in engine plants and around assembly plants. And he said, yes, and he said if you look at the warranty data, using the ginger root, and the ginger root comes in pellets. He said when you put the pellets in, you can see that the difference in warranty and in warranty performance, because minor leaks seal up and they don't cause the customer problems. And I think the implication was even in some cases that if you had if you had a hose that didn't seal right away at the assembly plant, over miles, it likely would seal in, and the stop leak ginger root was a bridge to that. So that really surprised me. I never expected that a vehicle manufacturer would use stop leak out of the factory. It just was a total foreign concept to me, but it's true. And if you go in the marketplace, I'm very skeptical about stop leak type products. And so I started looking in the marketplace to see what was available. Now I know I have seen some excerpts from service bulletins that, for example, from General Motors, I don't know if you can still buy them, but there was a time when you could purchase stop leak pellets from the dealership under a GM part number and use them in your car. They were recommended for certain products. In the outside world, what I've found is bars leak, and not every bars leak product. I can't speak to all our products. Some of the other ones may be very good. All I can say is that these pellets, they come 6 in a pack, and this is particularly, the part number is called HDC. These appear to be equivalent to what General Motors put in at the factory. They advertise on the back that they're compatible with all antifreeze, they lubricate, they're harmless, somewhere in their documentation they claim that the OEMs often use them and that they're approved. And they say, this one says, put a new one in every 15,000 miles or whenever you replace your coolant. So So first is, in the auto world, this type of stop leak is approved. And as I said, when I did power electronic modules for the car and I had to put them in the cooling system, the worry would be that this kind of material would plug up your cores or your parts in your engine. And I can tell you with certainty that the parts that I build, that I was responsible for, I didn't build, the parts that I was responsible for had to pass a test where they were resistant to this and didn't plug, didn't clog, didn't have any detrimental effect from having ginger root based stop leak. And if you go and pull up the bars leak information, you can go and get their SDS. And what's in here is more than 50% ginger root powder, if I understand it correctly. Along with some chemistry, there's some, I think, corrosion inhibitors. I want to say polyethylene glycol. Pull up the SDS and you can see what's in it. But its majority of the pellet is ginger root. And so you're supposed to put these into the cooling system, and on a car like the Camaro, I can put them in, open the radiator cap, and I can put them straight into the radiator, and they'll dissolve and they'll be circulated through the system. Some of the newer cars that have pressurized coolant bottles, that's not always easy, and you may have to take off an upper radiator hose, or you need to get them in the flow path somehow, because sometimes the overflow bottles or the pressure regulating bottles, your pressure cap on some of the new vehicles is on the bottle. Those don't flow enough. You need to get these pellets into the main flow path. And it's supposed to be, let's see, what's the 2 tablets per gallon. So I'm going to put them in the Camaro. I've had these on the shelf for a time. When I was concerned about, after the first engine, when I was having difficulty and I had internal coolant leaks, I thought about putting these in, and I held off, I waited. I felt better and did not put them in because I got back oil sample data that said that I didn't have any coolant in the oil, which was a great thing, is a great thing. But in my most recent oil analysis, when you go in really deep, there is a trace amount of sodium and potassium that could indicate that there's still some small amount of coolant coming from a leak somewhere. It's below a concern level. My thought is that I'm going to put a set of these in and run it and just watch it. I know they won't hurt the car. And next time when I do an oil change and an oil sample, we'll see if it makes an impact or not on the performance of the cooling system, whether that cleans anything up or not. If using these pellets makes the situation better and cleans up those traces, then I know something, and I may have to consider whether I need to do more work. And whether that means pulling the valve covers and retorquing head bolts, or just keeping an eye on it. Again, it was only like 10 or 12 parts per million potassium. It's a pretty small amount. And I think the serious level is when you get above, maybe 100. So I'm not really in trouble. This is kind of like a prevention, and we'll see if it makes a difference. But as I said, most of the time I'm personally skeptical about stop leak, but I know that this kind of a formulation has been used by the auto manufacturers, and I know that it works, and I know that they validate that it won't hurt your system. So that's a really comforting, to me as an automotive engineer, that's a really comforting thought. So right now I have a cold engine, and I'm going to take the car out in a bit. So we'll get the cap removed here. And I've opened up a package and I'm going to drop these guys in. All right, in they go. So the instructions then are to put them in and drive and or idle for 15 minutes at normal operating temperature. So shortly I'm going to take the car out, fire it up and run it, and we'll let her go. So the way these tablets are supposed to work is it's a powdered ginger root. It floats and circulates. It's not supposed to settle to the bottom. The intent is that it floats. And it's supposed to circulate through your system. And if you have a leak, the particles will get into the area where the leak is. If it's a small leak, and when it encounters air on the other side, they'll dry and they'll stick and they'll stay and it's apparently very effective, or I can tell you we wouldn't have used it. So I have the pellets in the car. We'll see how it runs. It's going to be a while till I do another oil sample, but I'll report back when the time comes and we'll see if they made a difference or not. Have a great day. I hope you enjoyed that video. If so, please subscribe to my channel.